Chapter 8 Childish Punishments. The Queen, her hair black as pitch, her crown silver as the stars, her face pale but not super white like Lily White's, sat in her evil dark throne room, her hands steepled under her chin. "This Lily White," she said to no one in particular, "has been a thorn in my side for far too long. She's the itch I can't scratch, the fly in my soup, the pea under my mattress." A guard looked at the Queen confused. "Not that kind of pea," said the Queen. "You know, like the Princess and the Pea, duh." Light bathed the throne room as one of the massive entry doors was opened. "Close the door, whoever you are," the Queen ordered. "You're letting all the darkness out." The door shut, and Huncules ambled in. Huncules seemed to have torn his purple V-necked slave's tunic so that it exposed even more of his chest. "Huncules!" shouted the Queen. "It's about time. You've been in the forest for days. You better have finished putting up all of those signs." Huncules pressed his hands together to flex his massive pecs, then said, rolling his eyes, "Oh yeah, they're on every single tree in the forest." "Excellent," said the Queen triumphantly. "Soon Lily White will be caught in my snare. And now, Huncules." The Queen rose from her throne and stepped down the dais. "Follow me down into the depths of my dark dungeons, and I will show you Lily White's demise. I have created a series of evil and twisted tortures that I will inflict upon her until she can take no more. And then I will inflict..." "Well, more?" "Wait," said Huncules as the Queen handed him a torch. "Weren't you going to kill Lily White?" "Yes," said the Queen as she led Huncules down the dark stone staircase. "But that is far too kind a punishment for this usurper. She must suffer for her overt paleness." "But if she's alive, and she's paler than you, wouldn't that make her the Queen?" "Not if nobody knows she's there." She led the way through a dark passage. "And if anyone," she continued, "ever finds out about our little secret, Huncules, well," she traced his facial features with her finger, "we wouldn't want anything to happen to that lovely face of yours." Huncules grimaced as the Queen finally led the way into a wide chamber with a high ceiling supported by pillars. The room had been partitioned with dark sheets strung on boards of wood like a backyard spook alley. The Queen pushed Huncules suddenly into the first large partition. Inside was a manacled animal? It seemed to be a cross between a hog and a monkey, though much larger than either animal. It had matted hair, covered in mud, and seemed to ooze a stinking jelly from its skin. "See there, Huncules," said the Queen, motioning to the awful creature. "This is the foulest and most disgusting creature in the world, a mugwump. Once I capture Lily White, she will be forced to bathe and scrub this beast once a day, every day, for the rest of her miserable life." The Queen cackled maniacally. "Well, it doesn't seem that bad," said Huncules, his fingers pinching his nose.
I mean, it's gross, but it takes, what, half an hour?
No, longer than that. But wait, it gets worse. She led Huncules out of this room, down a flimsy sheet-lined hallway, and into the next house-sized compartment. The stench of the elderly washed over them both as soon as the curtain door was lifted. In an enormous and well-worn reclining chair sat a giant, ancient, greenish-blue troll wearing an old purple bathrobe. His eyes were whitened as though with cataracts. Long white hairs stuck out of his ears and nose. A tall stack of giant newspapers sat to the side of the chair, and the rest of the room was scattered with empty pill bottles, soda cans, umbrellas, pickle jars, and other odd old man hoarder trash.
"Oh!"
gasped Huncules.
"What is this old dude doing here?"
"Look at those feet," said the Queen, motioning towards the troll's footstool. On it was set a pair of feet about half the height of a man, with yellow curled toenails, and which were covered with patches of hair and multicolored fungi. Huncules's eyes grew wide. "Yes, Huncules, you begin to see. I'll not only make Lily-White give this troll daily foot rubs, she'll also give him weekly pedicures. I'm positively evil," said the Queen, losing herself in the moment and dancing a bit. Huncules jerked a hand to his mouth to stop himself from throwing up.
"That's just messed up," he choked out. "This guy smells like death."
"Huncules," whispered the Queen sharply as she rounded on him, "watch your mouth. That is my uncle troll. His name is Spanky."
"Why? What?"
stammered Huncules. The troll groaned a series of unintelligible syllables.
Mi quando sto crapia della Casolimindiamo.
"Yes, yes, uncle," said the Queen loudly and soothingly. "We'll go now." The troll shook its head and motioned towards some human-sized chairs, but the Queen paid no attention. She led Huncules toward the next curtain door and down a hallway. The sound of men shouting became apparent and grew louder. They entered the next room, the largest so far, onto a wooden stage which was lit by a blinding spotlight. Rough calls erupted.
"Hey, good looking, what you got cooking?"
yelled one man.
"You got some pork with those chaps?"
screamed another.
"Show us your games!"
demanded a third.
"Silence!"
roared the Queen. The men quieted down, but didn't stop altogether. "Follow me, Huncules," said the Queen, and led him past the spotlight. He could now see a stand of bleachers, full of bearded men wearing rags and shackles, guarded by a few men holding pole arms. "I call this," said the Queen, "the stage of shame. Here on this stage, Lily-White will be forced to stand and listen to an audience of my bawdiest convicted felons shout rude and crude comments. These men haven't seen a woman for years. It'll be perfect." The Queen cackled again and smacked at her thigh with unqueenly fervor.
"How did you ever think of this?"
asked Huncules. "It doesn't matter how I spent my girlish summers," said the Queen, her cheeks reddening. "Now, Huncules, follow me to the girl's final torment." Leading the way down another hall, The queen threw open a sheet door to the smallest room yet. In it were a standing wardrobe, a plush rug, and a lavish canopy bed. "Huncules," said the queen, "after that girl's day of animal scrubbing, foot rubbing, and humiliation, she will be so happy to snuggle up into a soft, clean, comfortable bed, will she not?"
"Probably,"
said Huncules. "Well then, won't she be surprised when she pulls back the sheets and finds this?" The queen pulled back the bedspread to reveal a large, reeking, brown dropping.
"Oh, man,"
complained Huncules, waving his hand in front of his nose to dispel the smell. "That's right," cooed the queen. "We're going to put the mugwump's feces in her bed every day."
"Isn't that a little childish?"
said Huncules, standing away from the bed now. "And it will be your job, Huncules, to collect the feces and put it in her bed."
"Oh, that is so gross,"
whined Huncules. "Yes, it is gross," said the queen, looking satisfied.
"Is that it?"
"Yes," said the queen, "for the time being. Now, all we have to do is wait for somebody to bring Lily White to us and collect their reward."